All right, everybody, welcome to the Monday Night Live. I am joined, as always, by Dr. Greg Winteregg, and we have a stream invader.
I told
Abby's
Neil
bombing our video.
I'm here because I'm the one who helped find this platform. I made this beautiful background, so I thought it was time to crash the party and show my face around here.
Yeah,
Yes,
the truth of it is, Greg and Neil are nothing without Abby.
Well, the
This is
truth of
true.
it is, Neil can't talk about Taylor Swift for more than 12 seconds without becoming comatose. So we had to bring somebody else into the chat who could actually keep sentences together regarding the subject. So
You better clarify that really quick about the Taylor Swift part, or else people may not continue to watch.
I'm not clarifying anything. The only reason I agreed to do this was because there's also an image of Metallica in the thumbnail. So that's also Abby's doing. So that's why I'm here. Otherwise, I don't know. But anyway.
Well, since we're getting like all the important stuff out of the way from the beginning, I have big news that all of our viewers need to know.
Oh no.
Over the weekend, I won my first 2 Gran Turismo races in Italy at Monza in the Group 4.
Good job.
upgraded to C
That's
level
right.
over the weekend. 2 thumbs up to Greg for
Yeah.
his driving skills and ability.
Nobody who watched this channel would even know what that means. But basically, Greg is a kid at heart. And we got him a PlayStation 4 with a full working wheel and pedal setup, and I taught him how to race. And you were looking at a 2-time race winner from an online lobby this last weekend. So that's pretty impressive.
All those losers from Brazil and Europe and Canada. I put the smack down on them all.
That's right.
I won the last race. I had a 7.5-second lead with 2 laps to go, and I just put it in idle and still won by 4 seconds. I'm just saying.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
We had to get that on.
So, Greg, you get a good old POB, nice pat on the back for your efforts there. I will also say, in some actual news,
that was news, Neil.
Yes.
In some related news.
Yes, in some news people want to hear about. We have the first members-only live stream this Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you cannot be there for the full live, all member live content is able to be watched and gone through at any time. So if you're not a part of the membership program, you're going to want to be a part of that. Today, we had a new member, Mr. Ivo Gerlika. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but welcome, Ivo, from Slovenia. That's pretty awesome. When you have somebody from Slovenia sign up for your membership program from Florida, you're like, wow, that's really cool.
Our membership program is now international.
Yeah, we are. I am an international sensation. Greg's a sensation at Monza Raceway. I am a hit in Slovenia. So anyway, tonight we are going to talk about overcoming adversity, or as I say, just telling everybody to leave you alone and putting some fingers in the air that may or may not be these. And basically making it through ups and downs and figuring out ways to become creative. And Abby had brought up the topic of Taylor Swift the other day with her music, and she didn't own all the rights to it, so she went around it, and I had never heard of that. So we decided to have Abby on because Abby and Greg are both Taylor Swift fans. And
much to Neil's chagrin.
Oh my God, what is that?
I'm very bad at. Isn't that what Taylor Swift always does?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a heart.
That's a heart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I have a different sign I would like to show you, but I will refrain.
Oh boy.
People are like, Okay, when there's 2 of them, I can take it, but when there's 3 of them, I don't know. This might be a little bit
winter egg. Too much winter egg.
Too much winter eggs going on here.
Just imagine when our families get together.
This is really a live stream about what our staff meetings look like. So this is pretty much how every day goes with the winter eggs working together.
Hey, but you want to know something? The winter eggs have fun at work. I'm just saying.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Just saying.
We do know how to have fun.
So anyway, 5.5 minutes into this, we should probably get to the topic.
Yeah, so let's talk about Taylor Swift and Scooter and all that good stuff so that we can talk about business.
Yeah, so I'll tell the brief story here. Most people, unless you're named Neil, already kind of know the gist of this, but I've been kind of following what's been happening with Taylor Swift, like, because I listen to her music, but also I just thought from a business perspective that she is handling this in a very savvy business sense way. And I think there is a lesson to be learned here about resilience, persistence, making things go right when you feel like there's probably no solution or no way out or anything like that. So really quickly, the gist of the Taylor Swift situation is in music, when you record the music, it goes on to this thing called a master, and that is the master copy of the music. That's what all CDs and live streams and everything is copied off of. And generally, it's this unfortunate thing in the music industry. This happens in the arts, really, for writers and all kinds of other artists, but generally the record label owns the master, and therefore they're making the most money off of it. And this isn't just about money. I think it's more like the principle of the thing is this artist has like put their heart and soul into this and their hard work into this thing, and now they don't even have full ownership. They can't maybe not decide when it gets published and their song gets used for something and all of that. So this is what happened to Taylor Swift. Someone bought her masters. They actually bought the rights to her masters without her having a say in it. She wasn't even given the offer to buy them when the time came. So
yeah, I did look up one thing really quickly. Some guy ahead of some hedge fund named Scooter
Braun.
Oh, I was going to say Scooter Magruder, but I knew that was wrong.
I think that's from like the TV show Doug. Like that's what I keep thinking.
I don't know where Scooter Magruder came from, but man, I almost said that seriously. And then his basically his venture capital company, equity company, bought up all of the music for like $300 million or something like that. So Scooter effectively bought out this library from some record label and then became the owner of her stuff.
Right. And there's all kinds of other drama and blah, 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 other stuff, which, you can go look up on your own if you want to, but we're going to just talk about kind of the overall facts and the overall situation here. So the cool thing that was an option for Taylor, which I heard that Def Leppard has done this, but I don't listen to Def Leppard, so I don't know the details on that. But basically what she did was she is the songwriter of those songs. And as the songwriter, after a certain amount of time, she had the right to go record those songs. Because she wrote them, she had the right to go do whatever she wanted with them. And she re-recorded her second album, which was originally released in 2008. She just released it on Friday, and I've listened, that was like a guilty pleasure for me in 2008. In 2008, I was deep into Metallica and Linkin Park and all the things that I still listen to, Neil, don't worry.
In 2008, you were a closet Taylor Swift fan?
I was like, I can't tell anyone, but I really like this album, and I owned that album.
So ashamed. Where did I go wrong?
But anyways, I've listened to the new album, and for anyone who doesn't know, I am a musician myself, and I have pretty good ear. I've recorded stuff myself. I've been in studios. I know what the process is like, and the new album sounds almost exactly the same. It's got just some minor tweaks that maybe some people can't even hear. She also released, I think it was 6 songs that she wrote back then that were never released. So now she was able to release them. And now what's happening is, you know, Taylor Swift's fans are like super hardcore, and they all know about all this stuff because she's been very public about it. So everyone's going and stopping streaming her old album, and they're now only streaming this new one.
So are you saying that Taylor Swift fans don't really like Scooter Braun? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think they would do terrible things.
I think they call him Scooter Magruder. Maybe that's where I got it.
Or worse.
But anyways, the thing is I think it's just such a great story. You know, someone could say that it's vindictive or trying to get back at someone, but I see it as she was faced with this really tough situation that most people would have just sat down and said, well, I'm screwed, you know, there goes my life's work, and I'll keep making my new albums that I own, but those ones are just lost. But she like has really fought and really figured out a legal way to give the finger, but also, you know, take back ownership of her records. And this was
out of
also
curiosity, does she own her current music and just didn't own the old stuff? Okay.
Yeah, so she had, I think it was like a 7-album agreement with her old record label, and then she signed with a new record label a couple albums ago, and part of her new deal was that she was going to own her albums. And you know, it's just an unfortunate thing in general in the music industry. The same thing happened to Paul McCartney back in the day. Michael Jackson actually bought the Beatles catalog and outbid Paul McCartney, which is just like,
that's unthinkable.
Like it's just, which sucks because I like both of them as artists and musicians, but so I could go down a whole rabbit hole of like the injustice of artists and on the business side of things, because I'm very passionate about that. But like I said, I think it's just a point of really having to persist and see what can be done about it rather than accepting defeat, so to speak.
Well, here's the thing that I like about it most is I'm sure she had her moments, but if she would have kept playing herself as a victim and going down the victim avenue, she would have never come up with this bright idea. Because when something happens, we all have choices, and we have to stand back and take a look. Well, how did we put ourselves in this position? And I know, didn't you say that she signed the 7-album deal when she was like 15 years old and just okay, so you can say, all right, maybe she got some bad legal advice, she was inexperienced in the industry, but at the end of the day, she had to sit back and say, I did pick up the pen. And so whether it was fair or not fair, I guess my point here is she could still be banging the drum that I was taken advantage of, I was ripped off, Scooter's a loser, and keep going down that road. But as long as you're going down that road, all your energy and attention and creativity is lost in being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
The moment you say, this is how I contributed to this is what I did that created that situation, all of that noise then turns off. And you say, okay, well, this is a fine mess I've gotten myself into. How can I get myself out of it? And, you know, I've had to do that several times. And to Abby's point, there is a good business lesson here that she did have viable legal avenues to take. And my point here is she just quit being a victim. And like I say, I'm sure she had her moments and all of that, but at some point she had to knock that off, take responsibility for having picked up the pen, whether she was informed or uninformed. Shame on her for bad advice, shame on her for being uninformed, or whatever. You can stand back to that degree and say, well, you signed it. And she'd have to go, yeah, I guess I did. And so then I'm like, okay, so what are the options? And the moment you turn off being a victim and you take responsibility for your contribution for the situation, some small degree or some large degree, then at that moment your creativity kicks in on how to resolve the current situation rather than chewing up all of your creativity and being a victim. And I think that's one of the bigger lessons here.
Yeah, and I think when we were discussing this outside of the live stream a few days ago, Neil had a good point where you can talk about what Metallica did, but people hated people like really attacked Metallica back in the day for taking down Napster. But honestly, Lars Ulrich, the drummer of Metallica, is a very smart businessman. He was standing up for them in a legal business manner. And yes, it was great that you could go download for free whatever music you wanted, but the fact of the matter is that you were screwing artists out of their right and their exchange for the music that they put out.
So for people on the broadcast with white hair and never have heard Napster or Snapster or Instagramster, Neil,
I haven't heard of that either.
You're gonna have to tell us about those.
The new company I'm starting. So Neil, give us the history of Metallica and Napster.
I wasn't prepared for that question, but so Napster was sort of like, I guess, the first computer craze, you could almost say. You could go on, people would upload. If I had a Metallica CD, I could upload it to Napster, and then anybody could listen to it for free just because I took the CD and I put it on there. And then it started getting bad. You could burn it
onto your own CD. I could go listen to it in my car now. And I'm now listening to...
Be damned.
Yeah, right. I'm now listening to music that I've never paid for
And people started putting stuff on there before it had even released. So that was really pissing off artists because like music that hasn't even come out yet is on Napster, right? So you had this big mob that was all for the idea of getting crap for free. And Metallica was the only, Lars really from Metallica was the only one who was like pissed off. I mean, he was, there's a video of him in Congress. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And he later said years later that like he had no idea what it was going to turn into. It was years and years of battling and all kinds of crazy stuff. And eventually Napster pretty much like went away. But this was like before MySpace, before all these things. But this was, I think, probably the first real threat to media and digital properties and stuff like that, was because, nothing had been digital until that point. Everything was VHS, everything was CD, everything was cassette tape. Nothing was digital, and Napster kind of made it digital and was screwing people over because now you can have everything for free. And so the artists obviously didn't like that, and Metallica and Lars were really the only people who stood up and did something about it. Now, going back to the Metallica side of life, in 1994, Lars is a very famous or very smart business guy. He's the brains behind the Metallica machine. They were doing a contract negotiation with Warner Brothers and their record label, and he said, this was in 94, so they're big at this point. I mean, Master Puppets has come out, Load Reload just came out. They're at ultimate peak Metallica. They said, I think it was 25 years or something like that. In 25 years or on this date, we will own everything Metallica. And so when that date came, I think it was 2012, they became the sole rights owners of everything. All the masters, all the merch, all the name, everything. They set up Blackened Recordings to run everything. And they already had DVDs and things like that in the works that were ready to launch under their new flag. So they didn't release a lot of stuff for a while until that date came. And then now they own everything. Whiskey bottles, Christmas ornaments, pajama pants,
onesies,
you name it.
Babies.
I have all of them. But they were able to think far enough ahead and say, we're going to own all of our rights in the future. And probably the record labels at the time thought, who cares? They're not even going to be around anymore. And so they probably were like, okay, you guys are at your peak. You're going to be done eventually. So then they ended up winning out on that. So artists definitely get screwed in a lot of ways. And I think the we want everything for free mentality really screws them as much as the record labels do. Because we've created a culture with the internet where everybody wants it for free now. And, you can pirate things, you can, not pay for anything. There's people out there that think that they're just do that or given that. And so what that really does is just cost more for everybody else when you're buying it the right way or legally or whatever. But as far as, from a business perspective, I think somebody like Metallica could see far enough in the future to know that that was going to be very valuable one day, and it gave them bargaining rights now. I think that was really smart.
Now, I have a question. I mean, I was obviously not following any of this back in the day, but Napster executives had to stand back and say, we don't care about the artists getting ripped off. And
I think, honestly, so I don't know enough because, like I said, I didn't realize we were going into the Napster days, but this happens. I don't even remember what happened fully with the Napster lawsuit. I know they had to shut down, but Napster was kind of like a guy in a computer. It wasn't really like this 500 trillion gazillion dollar industry like Facebook. It was almost like.
But he's saying, like, even while they're getting sued, instead of just being like, oh crap, you're right, you know what, we should monetize this and the artist should be, like what Spotify is now doing.
Right.
Instead of doing that, they were fighting it.
So Napster didn't have to go the route of Blockbuster. Napster could now be the Spotify of today I'm just saying, if we just kind of flip the role a little bit and just look at business ethics and doing what's right and treating other people the way that you would want to be treated, whoever Napster was, a guy in his mom's basement, with 10 computers, that in order to end up in a lawsuit and all that, you had to not care about the artist being ripped off. So I'm just saying, I'm just thinking from a business perspective, if somebody would have stood back and say, wait a minute, let's take care of everybody. How could everybody win in this game? And we don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys. Let's just all sit down and figure out how to put all this together. I've obviously found a platform that people want. And I mean, I'm just saying, if we take a little bit broader viewpoint on it, on not founding a company on ripping somebody off, but actually the guy found something kind of by accident. I don't know. Everybody probably would have spent $1 on Napster instead of free, or you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying it.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I think this goes into a whole million other avenues. Digital, this kind of goes back to what we talked about a while ago when I did a video on Abby, what was that documentary on Netflix about?
$1 Billion Boy?
No.
Free Solo?
The Social Dilemma?
Social Dilemma, yeah.
Okay, about how your attention is what's being bought by these tech companies. And what really caught me from when I watched that, which I didn't even watch the whole thing because I was kind of like, whatever. The way business has changed with technology, the principles of business have not caught up. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense anymore about business. Like they interviewed in this, I'll go somewhere, just give me a second, but they interviewed a guy who used to sell computer software, and he's like, I don't know what the hell happened. Like, we used to make software, we used to put it in a box, and we used to send it to people. That was a business. They paid us money, we gave them something. Now people are just giving them money to advertise their products, and what they're buying is people's attention. They're buying their mind. They're buying that space inside their brain. He's like, I had to get out because it was like, what the hell is going on, right? So like the business principles haven't fully caught up with technology in a sense. Like, here's what I find interesting. Okay, so Spotify. I mean, we could talk about Spotify because we're talking about music or whatever. So Spotify is this new platform that everybody's cool with because I'm paying $10 to be a member and my artists are getting paid. Okay, but how do they have $100 million to give to Joe Rogan for his freaking podcast library?
Spotify just bought that
I mean,
podcast
it was a few months ago. I don't
for
remember how
100
long ago it
mil.
was. $100 million.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yes,
I
a
didn't know
hundred
that.
million dollars, and we're like, "Yay, Spotify's great because the artists get paid, woohoo!" And then it's like, "Yeah, Joe Rogan's getting paid,
Yeah.
but
They get paid like 0.001 cent per stream.
yeah, like, how do they have all this money to pay for these guys, but not the artists that are actual? You see what I mean, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's
Well, I
my
do.
that's
I guess
my
the
thing
point
with it
I'm
all.
trying to make is that if we just try and take what happened here and boil it down to a business perspective, um, Scooter Braun didn't have to screw over. What's wrong?
Scooter McGruger. That's all he can think of.
I can't even
But-
say Scooter Braun without Neil thinking about Scooter Magruder.
I
So-
don't even know what that is. I have to Google it. Keep going.
So I'm just saying, yes, well done to Taylor Swift, well done to Metallica, well done to whoever, Def Leppard. So that's really awesome. They were able to kind of flip the script to their advantage. But then from the other side, shame on whoever didn't take responsibility for the artists, because they could have been in on this solution rather than being in on being the problem. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I understand that. I just think business has changed so much with the technological side of things. I think that we're a lot more old fashioned with what we do. Like, somebody sends me a message about the YouTube membership thing on LinkedIn and they ask if there's going to be a session on Amazon sales. And I'm like, okay, I have nothing to do with Amazon selling. Like, when I say I'm going to teach you selling, I'm going to teach you how to communicate to people. I'm going to teach you how to actually have an effect on people through words and through helping them with your product. It's great if you sell stuff on Amazon. I know people who make way more money than I do or may ever see in my lifetime off Amazon. I think it's great, but I don't want to sell chapstick on Amazon. That's not my gig. So we're a little bit more old school with how we approach it. I think the technology side of things has changed business, and I don't think for the better, because I think, well, this goes back to what I say all the time. The more technologically advanced we get, the less in communication we all are.
Yep.
There's less communication between people interacting than there ever has been before, even though we're supposed to be able to communicate all the time whenever we want with all of our friends. Like taking a selfie in front of yourself every 5 minutes and putting it on Instagram with your butt hanging out is not communication. So, there's a difference there. And so we're a little bit more old school with that fashion. Some people might not even be
follow
like,
me on Instagram.
Yeah, follow me on
if you want
Instagram.
some great pics.
And I think that this live stream, we always joke around that like our best stuff gets the littlest views. This probably will only get like 12 views, but this is like a super unedited and just reality of who we are and how we communicate and how we work with each other, that I think more people should watch it, because this isn't normal in business. This isn't normal in most families' relationships. We're supposed to all hate each other at this point in our lives.
No, Neil and I got that out of the way early on.
Yeah, but then you brought up the whole Taylor Swift thing right now, and that cut deep. But it's like business has changed a lot with technology, and I don't think that everything else has changed enough around it. I mean, if we do take it back to the Taylor Swift thing, the idea that somebody else owns your music in this day and age is like, that's like caveman. I mean, if you just think about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
who needs a record label now anyway?
But that's how the industry was and has been, and it's.
That's what I mean. Is like it hasn't caught up at all.
Yeah, like you said. Now I have a question.
And by the way, just get out of the way. I found out when I Google Scooter Magruder, there is apparently a YouTuber named Scooter Magruder who I've never heard of before.
Oh,
but
no.
I somehow made that name up as we were talking about Scooter Braun. So if
Oh,
Scooter
wait, wait.
Magruder ever does see this,
Is Scooter Magruder now getting free publication, free publicity?
judging from the side of
our
his channel, we need the free pub.
Abby, I think you need to send Scooter Magruder an invoice.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I digress. Go
Abby,
ahead.
you were going to say something.
You're going to say something, Abby.
So if we bring it, I just wanted to bring it back around. We kind of went on a tangent, which is what we always do. But I was curious, Dad, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. So if you don't have an answer, that's okay. But kind of tying in the Taylor Swift Metallica thing because I'm sure that I know that you yourself have experienced this, but I know you've also seen many clients experience being in a super tough, almost cornered situation and kind of having a creative solution to get out of it. Do you have some sort of like real life story that, story time with Greg that you could share with us?
Okay. Yes, I do. And I'm actually not even sure if Abby and Neil know this story.
Gather around, children.
Gather around the fire.
Back in my day.
So in 2004, we moved to Florida in 2003 with the company, the management company. I never wanted to live in Florida, but for many reasons, we needed to move the company to Florida. And I said, well, if I'm going to live in Florida, I hate the beach. The foliage down here is definitely not my favorite. I'd rather be in Indiana or Virginia. I'm going to live on the water. So we bought a home on the water. We had a wave runner. We had the boat. And we closed on the house like the 1st of June in 2014. And literally within
2004, right?
Excuse me, 2004. Thank you, Neil. 2004. And literally within like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, here comes Hurricane Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm used to tornadoes in Indiana and I could tell tornado stories, but here comes a hurricane and they have category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, Hurricane Charlie is a category 5 and all the computer models show Hurricane Charlie ground zero, Tampa Bay. And so, yeah, so I live on the water. And so, they're talking like, okay, mandatory evacuation. I come home from work one day and I talked to Sandra, my wife, and she says, I got a note here in the mail today. We don't have home insurance. I'm like, how can we not have home insurance? You always have home insurance. The bank won't give you a loan if you don't have home insurance. Well, something messed up at the closing. Somebody made a monster error. We did not have insurance on the house, right?
Oh my gosh.
$850,000 house, right? And we had no insurance. I'm like, well, just call the company and buy some. She says, well, I did, but Hurricane Charlie's supposed to come this way. Nobody's going to sell insurance to us until the hurricane goes by. I'm like, and they're talking 20-foot storm surge. It's only a 2-story house. I mean, 20 feet goes up, my bedroom is underwater. And I just had to sit down and let this kind of sink in. And I'm like, holy shit, are you kidding me? I have this brand new house. I've always wanted to live on the water. And now here comes a hurricane with a 20-foot storm surge and I don't have insurance. I went for a walk. I really did. I started walking the neighborhood, like just trying to first of all, I think for the first 30 minutes of the walk, I was just in complete, like, dumbfounded disbelief that whoever was supposed to take care of this piece of paper. Now I can sit back. I had the pen in my hand and I like, hey guys, I didn't see any insurance here. Okay, I guess. But when you're closing on a house nowadays, it's 200 signatures, and that's not much of an exaggeration. So after about 30 minutes, I'm walking around, and I'm like, okay, so what if this happens? Hurricanes, they don't know. What if this happens? And so, I mean, they're already planning our evacuation. So I'm going to have to evacuate my house, and I don't know if I'm going to come back to it and it's livable. All right. It could be completely destroyed. It's not going to wash away because it's a block. So it'll have no windows. All the furniture and the, everything is going to be ruined. I'm going to be standing there and say, I don't have enough money to fix this thing. So I had to walk around and confront that. And I don't know how long it took. I think it was at least an hour. It might have been an hour and a half until I had to get okay with myself that I signed the documents. I had no insurance. I never asked a question. Is this insured? All right. And I had to be totally willing to make a mortgage payment on a home I could not live in and could not afford to repair. And when I became fine with that, the worst case scenario, and it kind of goes back to our decision video that we did 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, I walked around until I was willing to make a mortgage payment on a home that I could not live in and could not repair. And then all of a sudden, I was no longer stressed because I knew that I could go out, I could make the money, I own my business, I'll just do this, I'll just do that. I mean, the whole thing to make the extra mortgage payment, I don't know what it was, $2,000 or $3,000 a month. We don't die. Maybe all of our stuff is washed away, but I don't care. We still have our family. We had a condo that we could have moved into. It would have sucked really bad, but okay, I can live with that. And so, yes, I have been backed into a corner and faced adversity. And so we checked into a hotel. The hotel had plywood all over the windows, every window in this 10-story hotel, the Fort Harrison Hotel, old classic hotel. Supposedly the Stones wrote Satisfaction in the penthouse at the Fort Harrison. I digress. Anyway, we just went in and we had a party. And lo and behold, the hurricane is 2 hours south of Tampa, and it took this unexplained, unpredicted, not one model showed that the hurricane was going to hit Punta Gorda, Florida, and go towards Orlando. And the wind in Tampa never exceeded 30 miles an hour. I'm not taking any credit for that. I'm just saying that, yes, Abby, I've been backed into a corner. It really sucks. And once I was able to accept and experience and have the worst case scenario, then I could live with the outcome. And yeah, it would really suck, but I'm still alive and I still got my family and we're going to move on. So that's just
wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know that we didn't have homeowners.
Definitely didn't know that.
What kind of a father are you?
Yeah, I'm not going to worry my family. So, I think this does have it's related to the Taylor Swift story. Like, okay, I could sue them to try and get my rights back, but I don't have a legal ground on suing them. And I could take my case to, the media in 60 Minutes and put pressure down on somebody to, change the contract that I signed whatever years ago. But it's like, well, screw it. I signed it. That's the way it is. Now, what do I do? And so anyway, I kind of hit that moment that night on that walk. And I'm like, well, that happens. It's really going to suck, but we're going to move on from here. And that's what she did. And, I love the story about Metallica and Lars. And it just, you got to kind of sit back and just accept the worst case scenario. And somehow you contributed to it. And so just move on and put your creative energy into going forward rather than looking back with some sort of shame, blame, and regret.
No, that's a totally true story. Totally true statement. We're just, nowadays, anything that happens is somebody else's fault.
Exactly. That's so annoying to me.
Like, doesn't matter what happened.
Yeah.
Somebody else's fault. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the annoying part is that it's really hard to get ahead when you're blaming everybody else for everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is an interesting story. Didn't know that.
You have no idea what it's like to be me.
You have probably like over 100 stories like that one. I feel like.
Oh my gosh, we could talk forever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I hope that did that answer the question, Abby?
It answered a
Yeah,
question.
it was. Yeah, it was different than what I thought I was gonna get, but I think that works. Like I think like what I got out of that story was what you were saying just about taking responsibility. Like besides the fact of finding some creative way where you could have magically been insured or something, like besides that, you had to actually just kind of mentally accept it, but not in a defeating way.
Exactly.
Which can be hard to do, but
so these are the circumstances. How am I going to land on my feet? That was the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yep.
So before we end off, I have to tell you guys this. This is funny, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about, and kind of doesn't. So hear me out.
Okay.
Not many people are going to make it past this point in the live stream anyway. Let's be honest. So let's. So we were talking about. Okay, technology has changed business. We look at Napster. We look at what Napster did. That changed things. That brought things around. And, everybody loves getting stuff for free, and everybody blames everybody else for their problems. We kind of tied all that together, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So I was doing some research recently about the AB5 bill and the PRO Act and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. So there's something hilarious about the whole thing that all kind of ties into what we're talking about.
Okay.
So everybody knows that Uber is obviously bad. They're terrible people, and they're terrible, and they're terrible. And that's why we created this whole AB5 bill, is to attack Uber. And now we want to make the PRO Act nationwide because everybody's bad and the big companies are bad and all that kind of stuff, right? So I remembered something that somebody told me a couple of years ago when they Chris is like, I'm still here. Yeah, we know you're there, Chris. You're always with us.
Thank you, Chris. Shout out to Chris and Kokomo.
So somebody told me what it was like to try and become a cab driver, a taxi cab driver. Okay. And for some reason it popped in my head when I was reading some articles about AB5 and the PRO Act and stuff like that. Okay. So I did some Google searching. So to become a cab driver, how do you think it works to be a cab driver? If you wanted to be if you tomorrow, let's say you lost our house and you had to go be the cab driver after the storm, right?
Your side hustle to make
side hustle.
Cash.
Gotta make some extra scratch. Okay. Right. How does it work being a cab driver?
Well, it seems to me like I would have to first of all go to the DMV and get some sort of
forget about that. Like
that.
Yeah, you're ready to get in a car and start driving. What do you do?
Well, I'm going to go to the yellow cab company and say I want to drive a cab.
Okay, perfect.
And
so how does that work?
Well, I think they actually lease the cab to me by the day.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to become a cab driver, so you get the car, right? Yeah. You sign the lease.
And they're going to charge me whatever, $200 a day. That's the minimum. And then I don't know what their numbers are, but they're going to charge me, and then they're probably going to get a percentage of the fare, and it's up to me to go out and hustle, and then they have a dispatcher who's supposed to give me leads.
Sort of, yeah. So roughly, let's say it's going to cost me $600 a week to be a cab driver.
Okay.
I'm going to have that car for 7 days a week.
Okay.
They're going to give me some jobs, right? Yep. But in reality, I have to pay for my own gas. Mm-hmm. They tell me where to go. And if I decide I don't want to work a day, I still have to pay them the lease,
of course,
for the car, right?
I know where this is going.
Okay. So now let's say I work for a different cab company and we split the fare. All right. Okay. So I'm driving your car. I pay for the gas. Okay. And you tell me to go pick up Joe Blow. Okay. And then it's $100. Okay. Yep. I'm going to give you most likely 60 and I'm going to keep 40.
Okay.
Okay. Seems, yep. Okay. Good. But if I'm leasing the cab from you and I decide I don't want to work that day.
Yep.
I still have my job. Yeah. I just decided I didn't want to work that day, but I still have to pay you $100 for the day to have the cab.
That's the weekly fare. That's the weekly rate.
That's the weekly rate, right? Okay. Yep. That's worse than Uber. How are we attacking Uber for being like these draconian devils? And here it is. I'm sick. I get COVID for a week, and my cab is sitting in the driveway doing nothing. I still pay you $600.
I'll just
How
grab
are
the
we okay with that?
I'll just grab the contract and say, mister, did you sign this? It says that you owe me your money. I don't care if you got COVID. I don't care if you got the flu. I don't care if you got the sniffles. I get my.
Oh, and guess what? You're an independent contractor with no benefits.
Yeah.
But like,
that's really good.
Just
that's
so
point,
funny.
That's
Look at look at how technology has skewed everybody's opinion and viewpoint to where it's like cab companies are great. They take great care of their drivers. It's Uber. They take 60% of the fare. And then you're like, yeah, that's what the cab companies have been doing since like 1892.
When the cabs were being pulled by horses.
Yeah. And if the horse wasn't feeling good that day, he still had to go to work. He didn't have benefits. Anyway, I just thought it was hilarious because I started actually looking into it. And I'm like, you know what? Here we are attacking Uber, and the cab companies are probably the ones funding the attacks on Uber because they're like, man, they're worse than we are, but they're taking all of our business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was hilarious because it literally says in the article that I read that they're independent contractors, and then it goes through how they treat everybody. And I'm like, so why is it okay for Yellow Cab to do that, but not Uber? Right.
Yeah.
It's all because it's done through an app. It makes it totally different. Anyway, I thought that was pretty hilarious. I was like sitting here just like in disbelief, the whole thing.
That's funny.
All right, so I think we can bring this to a close. Is there anything we want to advertise for anybody who stayed on this long?
Obviously, join the YouTube membership program or go to adventuretoprofit.com and you can work with us more closely, one-to-one. Get guided help from Greg and Abby. I sometimes make an appearance as a stand-in for some shooting or video, but you have to watch the live streams to find me. And this is the first live stream we've done with all three of us, so I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Hope everybody enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah, we're entertained, but this is just like every other day at the office for the three of us. So this is really
You're right.
Yeah, this is about what every day looks like when we're all together.
Typical video shoot.
Except it's more of Abby going, get in line, guys. Chop, chop.
Can we get back on what we were talking about? No, not right now.
Yeah, I'm letting you do your thing tonight because this is your domain. But
yeah, exactly. All right, everybody.
Guys.
We are going to call it quits there. We spent longer than I thought we'd be able to talk about Taylor Swift, and I didn't die, so that was cool. But if you have anything else that you'd like us to talk about, leave some comments down below. Hit the thumbs up. Join the membership group. The first training is this Thursday at noon. You don't want to miss it. And we have one last comment here. Chris says another great video. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Chris. I will see you on Thursday. And we will see everybody else next Monday at 7 o'clock for another live. Take care.